If you've ever hit your helmet on a low-hanging door and you felt like you broke your neck or that you were dead, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you've ever had some type of crazy head injury while wearing a helmet, always interested to hear. Like, comment, that stuff helps me out quite a bit. Comment section's out of control, get in there, have fun. If you guys are looking to support the channel, t-shirts from Alonzo Defense Group or belts, we restock every Friday now. Get in there, they sell out usually very quickly, but we are trying to keep up with everything. If you're not looking for that stuff and you just want ammo to look cool and train, Freedom Munitions, discount code GRANDTHUMB. Get in there, appreciate it, guys. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the basics of helmet setup. Realize that there are about 1,000 different ways to set up your helmet, and it's all dependent on what you need and what you do. So don't just set your helmet up precisely like mine just because you see it like mine, because again, mine is specific to what I do and that type of thing. There are a couple notes here when it comes to helmet design. First off, don't get what you don't need, right? A lot of people want to put a lot of crap on their helmets because it looks cool, and I understand that, but what's not cool is having all that weight on your neck, because you do get neck injuries from a little bit more easily wearing these types of helmets, especially that type of stuff will compress over time. So be smart with it. Don't kill yourself when it comes to that. We have two basic types of helmets. We have ballistic and non-ballistic. Non-ballistic helmets are typically called bump helmets, and then ballistic helmets are obviously meant to stop shrapnel or small caliber arms of some type. Not specifically rated for rifle rounds, but oftentimes they will. So the question is why would you pick one or the other? Really good question. So right here, I have a bump helmet. This is a Team Wendy bump helmet. Quick note about Team Wendy. I know a lot of people do not like Team Wendy because they are a supporter of a certain presidential candidate. But that being said, they have been a huge proponent of military and protecting our guys. So I've always been a fan of them, and I don't think it's a free country. You can believe whatever you want politically. That's a fact. And in any case, they make a really good helmet. For bump helmets, why you might choose them is they cost a lot less. Typically, a bump helmet's costing anywhere from $150 to around $300. For some of your carbon types, you're getting up to $600, but that's pretty cheap compared to a ballistic helmet, where you're getting anywhere from $900 all the way up to $2,000, $2,500. Things like the OpsCore Maritime usually cost around $1,600. The Cry airframe is a little cheaper, usually around $1,000, $1,200, that type of stuff. But again, that price might be a reason why you might want to get one helmet or the other, especially if you don't need ballistic protection. So that's not for me to decide, that's for you to decide. But if you're looking just to mount night vision for like hunting and stuff, a bump helmet is a really excellent option for you, because you don't spend so much and you don't have so much weight on your head. It's a win-win. A couple reasons I've used bump helmets in the past is I came off a pretty horrific injury after a jump, and so while I was kind of getting back into it, I used a bump helmet to kind of save my neck a little bit as it healed up and got better and that type of thing. So a couple different options why you might use a bump. I do think that they're pretty good. Now, the topic of this video isn't specifically what helmet to choose. I just wanted to go ahead and take a moment to talk about that. So with those things out of the way, let's go ahead and let's move over to our actual ballistic helmets and the setups that I have used and why I have my helmet set up the way I do. So this is one of the helmets that I've used for a while. This is a Safariland Delta X, really excellent helmet. And then I have my current setup right here, which is my OpsCore Maritime. This setup, to some extent or another, is mostly based around night vision usage. Because of that, I have a lot of specific things on this helmet that are specific to the night vision device that I chose. Realize, depending on the night vision device that you are running, will also dictate specifically how your helmet is set up. It gets very confusing, I understand. So, the night vision that I have on this particular helmet are PVS 31s. They are, in some cases, similar to other binocular type night vision setups, such as PVS 15s, Sentinels, Andis 9s, and that type of thing, and the fact that you can use an external battery pack. So let's talk about this for a second. First off, OpsCore Maritime. Why the OpsCore Maritime as opposed to a normal OpsCore helmet? Well, the Maritime, there are a couple different things about it, but one of the big things about the Maritime that I like is around the ear, it is higher cut. This allows the ear pro to sit a little bit higher in your head. Now, this is going to depend on your head shape and that type of thing. So, some of the guys out there have no trouble with the OpsCore putting their ear pro at the correct height, even with all the variation, the ability to kind of raise and lower the height of the ear pro. For example, Milspec Mojo from Instagram, he uses a hardhead veterans helmet that is kind of cut similar to the OpsCore. He has no problem with where the EarPro sits. Now for me, it sits really low in my head. It doesn't work very well. So that is one reason why I like the OpsCore Maritime and why I chose it and why I've used it for quite a while. So OpsCore Maritime. So I am using the Wilcox G24 mount. Why am I using the Wilcox G24 mount? Well, it allows me to adjust the night vision to precisely where I need them in order to see and get a good sight picture through those night vision binoculars. So in this case, a couple different levers allows you to raise and lower the height, allows you to change the angle that you're looking through them, and a couple other things. There also is a breakaway option where if there's a certain amount of stress put on this mount, it allows it to break away. That's really good for guys who are fast roping and doing that type of thing. If the rope gets caught on it, it doesn't break your neck immediately. Instead, the mount snaps away and it saves your life to some extent or another. So that is one reason I use the G24. I think it's perhaps one of the best mounts out there. There are different ones available, and I know that the G24 is expensive, but again, you do get what you pay for when it comes to night vision, and unfortunately, night vision is very expensive. Mounted up here at the front, I have my PVS 31s. So they can be taken out of the way by either folding them into the up position, as you see here, or I can also use the G24 mount to bring them up and away from my head to get them completely out of the way for various activities and that type of thing. Moving back, you'll notice that I am running a battery pack on there. So let's talk a little bit about that back setup. With any type of night vision, you have weight out front. Because of that, the helmet's going to have a tendency to slip forward. Because of that, a lot of people end up putting a counterweight on. Now, PVS 31s are very, very light. So a lot of people don't end up running counterweights of any type. Now, me personally, I found that the counterweights make it a lot more comfortable, so I still do run a counterweight. In this case, I am running the OpsCore counterweight. Now, there are multiple ones out there, and we'll talk about a couple different ones. But with the OpsCore, the reason that I like it so much is that one, it screws directly into the mounts on the helmet. That makes sure that's not going to go anywhere. That then Velcros in. Also, the weights are oriented in a up and down fashion coming across. And that way, they can fold around the contour of the helmet and make sure that they're sitting a little closer. And as we know, that looks a little cooler. Now, again, if you are kind of missing that back Velcro because you need to put IR patches or whatever there, you still have a little option right there on the back of the counterweight, but do realize you're going to have some less Velcro space up there. Now that we've talked about the OpsCore counterweight, let's talk about one other system that's out there. On my Safariland, I am running the TNVC Mohawk. The TNVC Mohawk is a different solution depending on the types of problems that you have based on your mission set. So in this case, the counterweight is attached to a little Mohawk thing that comes up here. It allows you to mount different types of IR devices or that type of thing. And then down here allows you to store your counterweights. In addition to that, there is additional storage space so that you can put additional things in there, such as batteries. I know some guys put stripper clips with ammunition in there for kind of a last resort. There is also places to hold batteries right here on the back. That way you can change out your batteries on your night vision. This one is not set up for an external battery pack. They do have another option that allows you to put a battery pack into it. Again, it's just going to depend on your type of setup and what you're doing. There are also cable routing options. So if you're not routing your cables under the helmet, you can route them externally using these pads, using these retaining devices and that type of thing to ensure that they're not getting everywhere and getting caught and killing you and that type of thing. We don't want that to happen. So that was a quick note on counterweights. So coming up from my counterweight right here, I have the battery pack for my PVS 31. A lot of people end up using the PVS 31 battery pack as their counterweight. Now me personally, just the way kind of my head's shaped and that type of thing, I found that it's easier for me to run the counterweight and then run the battery pack because I'm not always running the battery pack. So again, that's going to kind of come down to you. Now, why do I run a battery pack? Because batteries run out really fast in night vision. Well, not super fast, but the battery pack allows me to not have to change them out quite as much. So I find it much more convenient for me personally. Now, a couple things to note here. If you notice, I have the wire running from the battery pack under the helmet. And that is a point of contention because a lot of people like to run their wires externally. Now, if you run your wire externally, there are a couple things you need to think about. One, you need to secure it in some way. Some people use tape, some people use their IR patches, or some other device. A couple good products that are out there are the Spirit Systems Lid Snake. It's basically a cloth that allows you to route it on a cloth helmet type cover. Another thing that people do is they'll use the helmet covers, like from First Spear or from whatever, and they'll run the wire under there and up to their night vision devices. Now, the helmet covers are really awesome and they work really well and they give you a lot of mounting options. At the same time, if you're running tape or other things, then it doesn't work quite as well. So again, it's going to depend on your mission set and a couple other things, but it is another solution to a problem that presents itself, which is wires. Now, if you notice too, I have my Ear Pro mounted directly to my helmet. So there are two options when it comes to Ear Pro. You can either have in-ear, well, three. You have in-ear Pro, you have over-the-ear Ear Pro, and then you have over-the-ear Ear Pro that are mounted to your helmet. I chose to mount them to my helmet because I find it to be much more comfortable. I have ran Ear Pro under the helmet before, but I always end up getting a tension headache or something like that from it, and that is no fun at all. So I prefer the on the helmet mount. It's very comfortable for me. If I need to, I can always rotate it off, and that allows me to cool off my ears when I need to and that type of thing. Now, if you notice on my particular setup right here, these are always clicked in. Now, if you know, typically with these types of mounts, you can pop them out. The problem that I've run into is doing jumps and that type of thing. I've had these pop out at inopportune times, expose my ear to not good hearing levels. So what I did is I did a simple mod where if you unscrew this right here and you get in there, you can put a small piece of paracord underneath the wire and that keeps them permanently down. Another solution is to use the Unity tactical mounts, and those are always in the down position and they are also smaller. I do think that those are superior. Just as a quick note, I don't have them personally on my lid currently, but those are a definite option that I'm looking into when I do upgrade, a couple things on my helmet at some point in the future. So if you notice with my Ear Pro, I have my wires running inside my helmet. I do that because it's just simple. It's a simple solution. That way I don't have to worry about them being on the outside or anything like that. I do have them secured with a small piece of zip tie to ensure that they're always staying at the correct location. And then I use the pads inside to ensure that they're not coming out and doing any weird things inside my helmet right there. I'm running back to my battery pack on the 31. The wire is also running the inside, and when it comes out, if you notice, I have a small piece of Velcro up front here. So I do that to ensure that I can retain that cord when I don't have it plugged into the 31s, and I also tuck that cord back under my IR flag patch right there on the right side of my helmet. So again, just an option that I found. If that doesn't work, if you're running a helmet cover, it's really simple. Just kind of push that thing back into the helmet cover and not have to worry about it. So that is a definite plus to having that particular helmet cover. A quick note with NVGs as well is that you should have some way of securing them. NVGs are worth a lot of money and you don't want to lose them. And especially from the military, you don't want to lose them because then you're going to spend a couple days looking through a swamp when somebody dropped theirs in a swamp, and that's no fun. With those things in mind, there are a couple different ways to retain your night vision to ensure that it's not going to become lost. One of the ways that most people use is they use small bungees with little hooks right here, and they hook onto their night vision to ensure that they're not going to lose them. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but they rarely work quite the way you want them to, and so never trust the bungees attached to the helmet because you always end up losing it. So one option that I have is a solution from Lucas Botkin of T-Rex Arms. So what I have done here, I'm going to kind of pull it off here so you can kind of see a little bit, is I have tied a piece of 550 from either side of the retention little lanyard loops right there. What I have done then is Lucas is releasing, either this week or next week, this NVG lanyard. Now he doesn't have a name for it yet, so I'm going to pretend and name it for him, and we're going to call it the NAD, the Night Vision Arresting Device. But it'll probably come up with some way cooler name than that. But all it is a piece of bungee, and also has loops for batteries on it. Pretty cool. And you just attach it to the side of your helmet, and that way if it falls, it's going to arrest it and keep it from going anywhere. If you're super scared about that, you can also attach the bungees from your helmet as well, but I found that this works really well, and I haven't lost my night vision using this because that Velcro is super secure on the side there. So that is my personal solution. There are many out there. A lot of people end up using little Wilcox lanyards right up here at the front, or they also take a piece of 550 and directly attach it to their helmet and that type of thing. So again, find what works for you, find what you're comfortable with, but that's my solution that I've used personally. Now, I know you guys are going to ask, why do I have a piece of tape? Well, you never know when you need tape, right? I have a small light right here, so depending on what you do, you might need a little bit of white light on your helmet for various types of situations. This is a Princeton Tech light. There are multiple out there. There are also the Surefire helmet lights, and those work very well. So this one is pretty small, not a whole lot of output, but it works for what I do. So again, if you need that light, then you need it, and get some type of light to put on your helmet. I have my comms cord off my Peltors secured with a small tie tab. And if I need that, I simply pull that tab off, and then I can plug those into whatever radio I'm using at the time, whether it be a 152, an emitter, or whatever. So that is what I have right there. Or, plug into cell phone adapter, call my mom, tell me to pick me up from the Airsoft game, that type of thing. So let's move to the inside. So regarding the suspension device on this helmet, I use the worm dial. I find that is incredibly comfortable. I'm a big fan of it. There are a couple different systems out there. There's also the BOA system from Team Wendy, and that works extremely well. But I found that the worm dial is the most comfortable and the most stable when I'm using night vision, which is what this helmet is set up for. On the inside, I'm using OpsCore pads with 4D 0G pads. Those 4D pads are amazing and super comfortable, and I'd highly recommend them. I'm not running all 4D pads, but I do use them to supplement some areas that I've gotten hot spots on my head from, and they are amazing, so I couldn't recommend them enough. A couple further notes here. So besides all the stuff that we talked about, you might need some type of beacon, whether it be an IR, visible, that type of stuff. So if you're doing night jumps and you're doing it in a training environment, you're going to need some type of visible. A lot of people end up using chem sticks or something like that. You also have the S&S Precision V-Light or the Hellstar from Core Survival. So those are a couple different options when it comes to visible strobes or visible lights to ensure that you're not running into each other. For IR strobes, you have a couple different options. You have the good old MS-2000, which works, but is very old, and there are better options out there. You have the SNS strobe, you also have the Hellstar, and then of course on the 31s, they have a built-in IR strobe. Now, I don't know what it is with the PVS 31 battery pack, but the IR strobe on the back of this thing is super freaking bright, and I don't know what it is, but it's almost too bright at times. But in my case, it works for my purposes, so I've just stuck with that. I am not running visible strobes on my helmet at this time. If I do, I end up running a Hellstar typically on the top right here. So that is my particular setup right there. Now realize that your setup is probably going to differ. It might not be a night vision setup. I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of why and kind of how to set up these helmets. So I hope that was somewhat helpful to you guys. If you have any further questions, please feel free to get in there and ask those questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. As always, guys, looking cool matters, but if you just have your helmet set up to look cool and you don't know what you're doing, then you don't look cool. So get training, make sure you know what you're doing, and don't put too much crap on your helmet. Stick with what you need. Thank you for tuning in. I got nothing else for you. It's important to take a girl somewhere nice every once in a while, or a boy, depending on what you like. I don't really care. It's a new world, right? Take them somewhere nice, dress up, that type of thing feels good every once in a while. So go to the symphony, go to a quartet, do something nice, but get out, do more than just sit at home. Get outside your comfort zone. As much as I am kind of an indoor cat and I love kind of sitting home and doing Netflix and chill and that type of stuff, getting out and having a good time with your significant other or something like that, or whoever, is a good time. So make sure you guys get out and don't just stay at home. Thank you guys. Take care.